You know, we're always told to think outside the box. But what if some minds are just built without a box in the first place? Today, we're going to flip the script on autism, not seeing it as a disorder, but as a completely different and sometimes incredibly powerful operating system. Let's get into it. Now, just listen to this. This is from Temple Grandin, a world-famous inventor and professor who is also autistic. She says she wouldn't change it. I mean, that really makes you stop and think, right? It forces us to ask a huge question. What if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backwards? What if it's not something to be fixed, but a source of incredible strength? So that brings us to this big question. Because look, we can't ignore that for many, autism comes with some very real, everyday challenges. But then you have these absolute titans of innovation, people like Elon Musk or Temple Grandin herself, whose unique way of thinking completely revolutionized an entire industry. So what's the deal? A struggle or a kind of superpower? Let's dig into that paradox.
Okay, so first, let's dive into these cognitive strengths. Because in the world we live in today, a world that is desperate for new ideas, these aren't just little quirks. No way. They're actually powerful advantages.
First up, hyperfocus. And I want to be clear, this isn't just, being focused. It's something else entirely. It's like a superpower of concentration. The ability to just completely shut out the entire world and go so deep on one thing that hours can feel like minutes. It's that feeling of flow that, honestly, most of us spend our lives chasing. And why does that matter so much? Well, just look around. Our world is basically a giant distraction machine. So in an environment like that, the ability to do truly deep work, that's not just a skill, it's like gold. It's what allows people to become masters at really complex stuff, like writing code, doing deep scientific research, or creating amazing art. Okay, next up is this incredible talent for pattern recognition. This is more than just a skill, it's almost instinctual. It's this drive to understand how things work on a fundamental level, to see the hidden connections and the rules that govern a system. It doesn't matter if it's music or the stock market or a computer program. It's like having a special lens that lets you see the code behind everything. And you know what? This way of thinking isn't just useful in our modern world. You could almost say it was designed for it. I mean, our entire digital world, from the cybersecurity that protects us to the financial markets that run our economy, it's all built on incredibly complex patterns. Being able to see those patterns isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely critical. All right, and this next one, this one completely shatters a huge myth about autism. We've all heard the stereotype that autistic thinking is rigid, right? But it can actually be the exact opposite, incredibly creative. Think about it. When you're not automatically wired to follow social norms or accept the way we've always done it, you're free to attack problems from a totally different direction. And that's where true originality comes from. And that right there gets to a fundamental truth about how we make progress, doesn't it? Genuinely new ideas, the big breakthroughs, they almost never come from just following the herd. They happen when someone sees the world in a unique way and isn't afraid to ask, but why do we do it like that? So a neurodivergent perspective isn't just some interesting alternative, it's one of the most powerful engines for innovation we have. So this all leads to a really glaring paradox. We've just walked through this amazing list of strengths. So why is it that for so many autistic adults, the reality is an excellence, but exclusion? It just doesn't add up. Okay, let's just recap for a second. We're talking about a combination of hyperfocus, insane attention to detail, pattern recognition, logic, honesty, and out-of-the-box problem solving. I mean, if you wrote that down on a resume, that sounds like the perfect candidate for almost any job, right? You'd think people with this skill set would be some of the most sought-after talent in the world. But they're not. The reality is this absolutely shocking number. Over 80% of autistic adults around the world are either unemployed or stuck in jobs that are way below their skill level. It's a huge, huge disconnect between potential and reality. So the big question is, why? Well, here's the thing. The problem isn't the person. It's not a lack of talent or lack of drive. The problem is the system. Our world, from our schools to our job interviews to our office layouts, it was all designed by and for what we call neurotypical people. And these systems, without even meaning to, end up screening out anyone whose brain is wired just a little bit differently. It really comes down to two totally different ways of looking at this. For a long, long time, we used what's called a deficit model. It was all about what's wrong with an autistic person and how we can fix them to be more normal.
But the big shift, the one we need to make, is to the neurodiversity model. This just recognizes that brains are different. It's a natural human variation, like being left-handed. It's different, not less.
And you can see how this path of exclusion plays out. It starts really early. A one-size-fits-all school system can be a really tough, even overwhelming place. Then you get to the job interview, which, let's be honest, is often more about judging someone's social skills and charisma than their actual ability to do the job. And even if you get past that, you end up in an office that might be a sensory nightmare. So at every single stage, incredible talent just gets filtered out.
But here's the good news. It absolutely does not have to be this way. And this is where the story gets really hopeful. Because the question becomes, what happens if we stop trying to fix the person and instead we start fixing the environment?
And you know what? The solutions aren't even that complicated. It starts with getting the right support and education in place early on. But the real game changers happen in the working world. Things like hiring for actual skills instead of how well someone performs in an interview, and creating workplaces that are more flexible and supportive. It's all about building systems that are truly inclusive.
And listen, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea. It's a proven business strategy. Seriously. Just look at huge companies like Microsoft, SAP, and JP Chase. They've created specific programs to hire neurodivergent talent. And the results? They're incredible. JP Chase found that in some roles, their autistic employees were anywhere from 90 to 140% more productive. This proves it. Inclusion isn't about charity. It's a massive competitive edge.
So that brings us right back to that powerful question from Temple Grandin. What if the whole world just stopped trying to make autistic people normal and instead just help them be excellent? It totally changes the goal, doesn't it? And it gets right to the heart of what real inclusion is all about.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The potential's already there. It's abundant. The only thing that decides whether that incredible potential gets wasted or if it gets unleashed to create amazing things is us. It's about the systems we choose to build, the environments we design, and the opportunities we create.
And I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. You know, the problems we're facing in the world today, they're getting more and more complex. So we have to ask ourselves, are our old conventional ways of thinking really going to be enough to solve them? Maybe, just maybe, the future actually depends on unleashing the power of the very minds we've been pushing to the side for far too long.